Is the Edmonton real estate market still going crazy, or has it started to cool down a little bit? Well, if you're wondering what's going on in the Edmonton real estate market, then you're going to want to check out this video because I'm going to be doing a deep dive on exactly what's been going on in the Edmonton real estate market, looking at the most recent statistics from March. Those came in about a week ago here, and now we can look at what's been happening in the Edmonton real estate market as a whole. So let's jump right into it. This is part 1 of 3. In this video, I'm going to be looking at the Edmonton real estate market as a whole. So that's going to include both single family homes and condos, townhouses, row houses, everything as a whole, so sort of smushed together. Afterwards, I'll be doing a second video on single family homes and then a third on condos. So this one's a good overview, but you'll want to check out those respective videos depending on whether you're looking at condos or single family homes. So for the total residential, that's everything. You can get a copy of this report I'll be going through in the link below. There's a link there that you can go and get an access to this report. And of course, if you'd like more specific advice, I recommend booking a call with me or reaching out to me. You can reach me on my cell at 780-819-5508. You can either call me or text me. You can email me at trevor@trevortardif.com or go to booktrevornow.com, select a time on my calendar, and I will call you. So let's jump into the report here. So we're looking at all residential in Edmonton, and this is using the most recent statistics going basically to the end of March. So one of the things that's really interesting here is the market as a whole has now shifted into a seller's market. Before, when we looked at this last month, it was still in balanced market territory. So this is the first time that Edmonton as a whole has been in a seller's market in a long time. If you look at the 12-month history here, the absorption rate is way higher now than it used to be. And essentially the absorption rate is looking at how many listings are active on the market and how many are selling, and then calculating the absorption rate from those numbers. So we're sitting at over 50%, so 56.78% listing absorption rate. So as of the end of March, we had 4,199 listings in Edmonton, and we had 2,384 that sold in that month. So basically 56% of the number of active listings is the same number that's sold. So that's a pretty high absorption rate, and that puts you into a seller's market territory. Whereas if you look at the last 12 months, you can see last March we were sitting at 32%, and then we got up to 35 in April, and then it dropped down from there. So February was a super strong month. If you watched my last video, we had jumped up to 44%, which was still in that balanced market territory. But now we've had even more absorption of our active inventory. So we're actually sitting at a seller's market as a whole. Now, the markets are much different whether you're in single family or condos. So don't take this and be like, oh, it's a seller's market, I can just do whatever I want, because it's not a seller's market for condos. As you'll see in the third part of this series, where I'll look specifically at condos. But if you're just looking at the market as a whole and kind of just seeing the whole thing, then it looks like the whole market's in a seller's market. Now, if we go and look at the average price, this is interesting. So the average price for March 2022 was $409,898, which is actually down 0.22% from February 2022. But it is still up from last year. It's up 4.82% from March 2021. And if you look at the 13-month history again, you can see last month, in February, last month's report, we had a huge gain of 9.39%. And essentially it's leveled off now. So even though technically it's a drop in the average price, that just shows that we had a really big jump in February, but then it sort of stayed steady in March. So not quite as crazy, but I can tell you the market is still very active out there. We had a lot of sales volume, and it's still, like I just said, it's more of a seller's market. So even though we didn't see as big of a gain in average price, that doesn't actually mean that property prices are falling. I find that they're just not increasing at as feverish of a pace as they did before. So if we look at the average price trend, this is just looking at it on a yearly basis. So in 2021, we were up 6.25%. And so far in 2022, we're up 4.86%. That's only taking the first 3 months out of the year though. So I do expect that that number will increase each additional month, even if we don't have large gains moving forward. But you can see we've had some pretty healthy increases in the last couple of years here. Now, if we go and look at active and sold listings, at the end of the month, we had 4,199 active listings and 2,384 sold. So our active inventory is up 11.44% from February 2022. That's one of the things that's helping to ease a little bit of the insanity in the market. A big problem that we had is just not enough inventory. And so getting even just a little bit of inventory does make it not quite as crazy. It's still pretty crazy out there, especially if you're looking at single family homes, but it's eased up a little bit. It's not quite as intense. And you can see our inventory is still down 17.63% from March of last year. So even though we got a little bit more than last month, we're still down from last year. And then this is where you see the big contrast. So the month over month sales volume, which is actually the number of properties that are selling, is up 42% from February and up 45% from March 2021. So even though we've got less inventory than we did last year, we've got a significant amount of more sales volume. So this is just sort of the balance here. The bigger the green gap, that's basically the bigger the gap between the active inventory levels and the sales volume. And you can see that things really started to ramp up in February, and we started to close this gap. So even though we have a little bit higher total inventory than we did last month, our sales volume is still very high. So we're absorbing that inventory very easily, which is what keeps it a seller's market and puts more upward pressure on prices. Now, if we look at the average days on market, we had 35 days on average in March 2022, which is down 25.53% compared to February. So stuff was selling even faster on average than it was in February. And it's down 18.6% from March 2021. So stuff's selling pretty fast. You could see we went from 47 average days on market in February down to 35 days. So we're already almost beating the lowest point that we got last year. Last year in May, we got down to 34 days average on market. So we're sitting at 35 right now. We'll see what happens here in April. Now, if we just look at the market distribution, this is just like at what price point stuff is selling. So you can see a little less than 15% of the market is under 200,000. Basically 15% is between 200,000 and 300,000. And you got 25% almost between 300,000 and 400,000, and about 20% between 400,000 and 500,000. Once you get into between 500,000 and 600,000, you're now a little under 12% of the market, and about 7 or 6.5% between 600,000 and 700,000. After that, you've got just over 3% between 7 and 800K, just over 1%, 1.3% between 800,000 and 900,000, and less than 1% between 900 and a million. And it's kind of the same between a million and $1.5 million. Again, a little less than 1% in that bracket as well. So the biggest chunk of the market is still between that $300,000 and $400,000 price point. It's a much more affordable price point for people, even though we're looking at the market as a whole. Now, we've been entering a climate where interest rates have started to rise. Both the variable rates and the fixed rates more recently have gone up quite significantly, and it looks like they will continue to go up. So I'm really curious to see how that's going to affect the real estate market moving forward. I still see a ton of demand right now, and until I see inventory levels start to rise significantly, I wouldn't be expecting all of a sudden prices to be less than they are right now anytime soon. In single family home market, the conditions right now are still going to be putting upward pressure on prices, even though it's not quite as insane as it was before, since we've got a little bit more inventory. And hopefully the rising interest rates has helped to bring down that demand just a little bit at least. But if the rates keep going up, and if it can reduce the demand even further, and we start getting more supply, then that could start to cause a market shift. I just don't see that happening yet. So I'm going to be really paying really close attention over the next few months here to see how that progresses. So it's still a very good time to sell. It's not like quite as hot as it was before. If you're selling condos, again, it's a different story than single family homes. So make sure you watch those other videos so that you can get the inside scoop. But again, I can give you way more specific advice if you actually reach out to me. You can reach me on my cell at 780-819-5508. You can either text me or call me, or email me at trevor@trevortardif.com, or go to booktrevornow.com, select a time on my calendar, and then I will call you to discuss whatever you've got on your mind about real estate, whether you're looking at buying or selling, you're trying to figure out strategy, like is it a good time to buy or sell right now, and that kind of stuff. It can be pretty confusing, especially when the market is moving this quick and you need to make sure that you've got accurate information. So I encourage you to reach out to me, and make sure you watch the other videos here, and like and subscribe if you're liking this content. I'm trying to get to 500 subscribers. I think I'm sitting around 420 right now. So I could use your support if you're getting value out of these videos. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video.